Hello to our first attendees. How are we all? Welcome to the PLA Queensland webinar. Today we've got Syngenta and Technigro, where we'll talk about new innovation in technologies for the management of open spaces. So we're joined by two of the crew from Syngenta and Izaac from Technigro. So what I'll firstly start by doing is acknowledging our traditional owners and respect to their elders and custodians of these lands, past, present, and emerging. We honour elders that have ensured the continuation of culture and traditional practices. Today, I'm on the land of the Gubbi Gubbi people on the Sunshine Coast and acknowledge the lands in which you sit here today. I'd firstly like to thank you all from Parks and Leisure Australia and Parks and Leisure Australia Queensland. Been a big week for us. We've had a lot going on in the Go Green initiative, and I'd like to thank the councils and representatives who have got on board. And that's just a great initiative in which we're acknowledging a lot of people behind the places, particularly what they've done during COVID-19 in making sure our parks are socially connected, health and well-being, and people that are talking today in particular are the key people that are making sure our green spaces are vibrant, happy, and welcoming for all. So I'm just going to pass on to Dan from Syngenta, and he's going to do an introduction. So I'll dial in back at the end, and thank you all for your time and enjoy.
Thanks, Adam. And yeah, once again, welcome everybody. From a Syngenta perspective, I'd like to thank the PLA for supporting and facilitating this webinar to take place. One of the key values to Syngenta is to invest back into the markets that support us, and the PLA as an association allows us to do this effectively in regards to sharing knowledge and creating networking opportunities. I'd also like to take a moment to just acknowledge people within our communities that are doing it a lot tougher than normal through no fault of their own, unfortunately, through the impacts of COVID-19. It does, and part of this situation does reinforce how important our roles are within our communities. With all the extra stress and anxiety within the community at the moment, the open spaces that you manage is becoming even more vital and more important to assist and create an outlet for people to escape to short term. I've certainly observed in my local community over the past few months these local open spaces and sports fields actually been utilised in different forms and activities, which has been great to see during these tough times. But inevitably, we will get back to a normal life, and with that becomes a reality of managing open spaces and sports fields, meeting community expectations with increased demand in many cases, no extra resources to meet this, putting pressure on aiming for continued improvement but achieving more with less. This webinar is intended to share information and possible ways to achieve this. So I'd like to introduce our presenters for today and hand over to them afterwards. One just quick housekeeping before I do that. There is a chat function, everyone, on the right-hand side of your screen. So as we're moving through this presentation, feel free to put your questions in the chat button, and we will have a quick Q&A at the end of the presentation where Dean and Izaac can work through any questions that you have as the guys are talking. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Izaac Loosmore from Technigro. Sorry, Izaac. Isaac's desk for vegetation management and sustainability led him to study environmental science in Tasmania, where he continued working in the forestry industry for 6 years. He obviously got sick of the cold weather and returned to Queensland in 2016, where he joined the Technigro team as the Southern Supervisor for the Natural Areas Department. Isaac's current position as Business Development Manager sees him working alongside Technigro operational leaders to offer new and existing customers high-value services with accurate digital reporting. Isaac's passion for offering vegetation management services delivered to a high standard in the safest manner is well aligned with Technigro values. for Dean Mosh. Dean is the State Manager for Queensland and WA, Turf and Landscape. Dean began his career in greenkeeping, working at Pacific Golf Club in Brisbane. Prior to joining Syngenta for the past 8 years, Dean's previous work has included working with our commercial partners in South Australia, Victoria, and more recently, Queensland. He worked very closely with turf managers and assisting them with agronomic solutions to assist turf managers in providing excellent facilities for their customers. Dean currently is in the position of Territory Sales Manager, Queensland and WA, where his passion for turf management is utilised to assist turf managers to provide the best possible services they can while working with and supporting our key distribution partners to develop their businesses as well. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Izaac and Dean, and I'll circle back at the end of the presentation for the Q&A session. So sit back and enjoy, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dan, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for your time this morning. I'll start by telling you a bit about Technigro. I'm sure that most of you in Southeast Queensland would have heard about our company, as we're one of the larger vegetation management companies in the area. We were founded in 1988 by Nick Blaw, and his brother Kim joined the team in 1989 with what was a standard spraying contractor of the time. Kim's now the GM of Technigro. Over the years, Nick and Kim saw the need for higher safety standards and more efficient management of vegetation, and as a company, spent a lot of time and resources on research and development of technologies to achieve those outcomes. We were heavily involved in the design and construction of the drift-proof sprayer, which you can see at the top left there, and the safety cell on the bottom left. And as a company, we really strive to look at weed control as vegetation management rather than just the spraying of weeds. Nowadays, we're a diverse business and we employ over 60 staff across 3 departments. We've got a natural areas department, roads and landscape, and turf services. And our natural areas department focuses mainly on revegetation and rehabilitation of natural areas, mainly in urban and riparian environments. The roads and landscape department, we have a roads and road networks weed control branch and a landscape construction and maintenance branch. We're the preferred supplier of herbicide application for Brisbane City Council, and as part of that we spray over 90,000 kilometres of their minor and major roads each year. And we hold our QBCC licence and complete things like structural landscaping, streetscapes, wizard construction, playgrounds and erosion control. And finally, in our turf department, we offer turf services, and we have been for over 25 years. And we cover the whole package, but we focus mainly on aeration and applications. So for over 25 years, Technigro was a family-owned business, and only recently we became part of one of the larger vegetation management companies on the East Coast called SEQld. And that's really benefited us as a company in 2 main areas, safety and financial support. So being part of a larger company, it's forced us to really up our standards on all things safety. And we get a lot of assistance from SEQld in the writing and implementation of policies and training and procedures. And they've really helped us to change the culture from within our company and make safe work an everyday normal practice. SEQld, they also offer us a lot of financial support, and we've had the opportunity to purchase equipment and jump at opportunities that most other smaller companies just can't do. For example, this year we were successful in bidding in Brisbane City Council Sports Turf Aeration Program on the basis that we could complete all the works. So we purchased 2 new aerators to add to our fleet so that we could complete the 290 hectares of fields in the short time frame that was allowed, while we still managed our usual contracts and workload. We've also recently purchased equipment to treat weeds with hot water, and you can see the picture on the left there of our sensor machine, and that it's got chlorophyll sensors that detect weeds and treat them with measured amounts of hot water. It's highly sophisticated equipment, and it doesn't come cheaply, and we really couldn't have done it without our citywide ownership. In the middle there's a picture of our proprietary reporting portal, where field crews tick off completed works in the field on an iPad, and our management and clients can see what and when the works were completed in real time. I thought it'd be relevant to point out our company values that you can see down the bottom there. We care, safety matters deeply to us. So do the people that we work with, the communities we operate in, and the environment which we work. Enduring relationships, we never assume to know everything about our customers. Innovation, we're an innovative company and we seek new and better ways of doing things, and we're inquisitive about new technology. Accountability, we're empowered and take responsibility to deliver our commitments on time. And excellence, we always aim to do things right the first time and strive for superior performance. So I've got a few notes on the page here that you can see that relate back to those values. We very much care about staff and community safety, and we care about environmental sustainability and responsibility. And as a company, we strive to use leading edge products and practices to offer the safest service for everyone. We don't want to be out there using harsh, poisonous chemicals that have potentially detrimental effects on the environment or our staff or the community using those treated turfed areas. And essentially, we want the peace of mind that we can offer an effective treatment that's safe for all. Excellence, we always aim to use best practice for our customers and for the above. And like I mentioned earlier, over the years, we've invested substantial resources into being an industry-leading company in this space. Innovation, we're always looking to utilise and adopt new products and practices and that meet the above criteria and assist us to meet our own values as well as our customers' expectations. Examples are our safety cell, hot water weed treatment equipment, the drift-proof sprayers, our reporting portal, and of course, like the use of products like Barricade and Acceleprin. And we also place a high importance on product stewardship from companies like Syngenta that share the knowledge and information to achieve best practice at all times. And any of you guys that have dealt with Syngenta in the past will know the level of support that they do offer. Accountability, we hold ourselves accountable to choose the best products and methods to deliver the desired results every time that achieve all of the above. And these services, they're not always the cheapest, but they are the best and they'll generally save you money in the long run. And finally, over on the right there, enduring relationships. So what is important to Technigro, we know is important to our customers. And we believe that this then leads to strong and long-lasting loyal relationships we have with our customers. So community safety, minimal re-entry periods, minimal environmental impacts, less interventions, less applications, efficiency of products, quality products, and good end results, and reduced risk, so using proven turf registered unscheduled products. So I'll flick back over to Dean to do his intro and then come back in a moment and elaborate on some of these points with our field experiences.
Thanks very much there, Isaac. That was a great introduction to Technigro and gives everyone a nice idea of the quality work and great work that Technigro does out there in the field. So guys, just to give you a bit of a rundown on the content of today's webinar. So first off, I'm going to start off with talking about turf in the community and what that looks like and what it means to us and you guys out there. And I'm going to move back over to Isaac to talk about how Technigro works in this field and what's important to them and what's important to the customers and the value that they can add. And then at the end, we're going to come back to myself and I'm going to join all the dots and give you guys a little bit of an overview on some agronomic planning that that's going to help you maintain these sports fields at the highest level. So at Syngenta, we've been lucky enough to deal with the consultant in Sydney called Dr. Mick Batten. And what Mick done is he looked at over 500 sports fields and analysed over 500 sports fields within Sydney and New South Wales. And what we found out of that study is that we found that we clearly worked out that agronomic plans and budgets are sometimes not spent in the correct areas. And what that also means is that the hours of use of sports on the sports fields doesn't particularly reflect the quality of turf. So as you can see here, in this image, so on the right-hand side, the fields here have been used from 12 to 15 hours, and they looks like they've been, the wear and tear is quite high on these areas with minimal usage. Whereas on the left-hand side, you can see some images here of 32 hours and 45 hours, sorry. And the quality of sports turf on these is quite good. So a key message in this is that let's take care of things that we can take care of. So things like insects and weeds and things like that. Let's take care of that, because we know that we can take care of those things. Whereas things like wear, we can't be there managing wear tolerance and sporting fields and things, sporting clubs and things like that all the time. So if we can take care of the things that are in our hands, that's a good start to creating some durable sports turf. So community multi-use areas. So there's a very big trend across the country going on now, not certainly Australia, New Zealand, and even probably worldwide, really, that the community use areas, these areas aren't just used for sports now. So one thing we know is that we obviously live in a very high density area population these days. So all these people living in these areas don't particularly have backyards. So naturally, they're going to start heading down to their local parks and green spaces and open spaced areas, which in turn is going to give a lot more wear and tear out there. Also school groups, and you'll go down to any park on any given day, and you'll see people doing personal training and so the increase of usage of these green spaced areas is quite high. So, and generally as well, you guys are trying to manage these sports field spaces generally with the same budget and less tools. So if we can do a little bit more with less, that's going to get you to a good, nice, durable sports turf. So turf horticulture in the community. So why do things differently? I'll hand over to Izaac now, and he can dive into this section.
Just turn my microphone on. Yeah, thanks, Dean. So as a contractor in the vegetation management scene, there's a number of challenges that are becoming more and more prominent as time goes by. And as a company, we invest a lot of time and money in the most up-to-date equipment and practices to try and mitigate these modern-day risks. So as you'll see here, I've got a few points on the screen that are the main challenges we're facing when managing these turfed areas. Less opportunities to spray. So high usage of the sports fields means that we're getting less opportunities to treat the fields or the turfed areas. Increases in women's sport, high populations in our urban centres, means that there's minimal downtime on the sports fields, giving us less opportunities to treat them. So we need long-lasting pre-emergence and unscheduled products with minimal or no re-entry periods. They really are essential for us to be on the fields for the least amount of time as possible. Notification to spray and managing re-entry periods. Again, back to high use on the fields and parks. and less opportunities to spray. We find that sports clubs and schools, they can inform their players and let people know that fields are closed and kind of manage the time for us. But it's more of an issue in parks and dog parks and foreshores where people can just rock up at any time, and especially when someone's made a plan to use the area, or if they have a routine of using it regularly and we interfere with that. So again, it's where we find unscheduled products to be a massive advantage. For example, Celiprin doesn't have a re-entry period, so we can have kids playing on the field immediately after we've treated them. Whereas, yeah, the majority of those comparable products, it's until they're dry on the leaves as a minimum, and some of them being up to a day or 24 hours. Weather's a major challenge for us, not only within our turf department, but across the board in our company. Last year, we battled drought, hard compacted fields. It was a nightmare for us trying to complete our aeration programs and trying to water in pre-emergence and fertilisers. And then it rains for most of February and March, and we can't get onto the fields. We actually lost 18 out of 42 work days in that February-March period. So weather's always been an issue and always will be, but when you compound it with other issues and other challenges, it makes our job much more difficult. And finally, scrutiny on what and why. Public perception of chemicals lately has been negatively impacted, and it's especially due to all of the coverage of glyphosate and Roundup in recent years. And we've found that any spray application is seen as a negative occurrence. We could be out there like spraying the fields with water and we'll still get a complaint or a negative comment. And I see there being two main elements to this. The first is the less time we can spend on the fields and the less applications that we have to complete each year, then that's better. It's not only better for the abuse and pestering of our field staff, but also for the complaints that you guys as council or as and as our management staff receive. And secondly, if we can use safe, unscheduled products, it's much easier for our staff to calm irritated members of the public and to inform them that the products that we're using are actually safe for all and safe for everything. And I've also got down the bottom an additional challenge there, the risk of weeds and grubs that potentially attack the roots and make surface less durable to withstand the increased activity. Not so much a challenge for us as a contractor, and I think Dean will talk more to this, but I thought it was important to include it here as it's important to you as our clients. And you need products that you can be assured will be effective in controlling weeds and grubs and protect your fields. And we all need products that are safer for the public and employees or our employees as applicators. So Celiprin and Barricade as examples, they're key tools that help us achieve and deliver on our objectives as a company. So what do these products give to us as end users, and what do they provide for our clients? So reassurance that they will be effective. We pretty much always recommend the use of Barricade and a Celiprin over other products, and it's because they do deliver every time. We've actually found over the past couple of years that Barricade and a Celiprin have gained a real positive reputation, and we're getting a lot of customers that are now requesting that they be used over other products. And again, it's mainly because they do work. Both of them have minimal negative impacts to the environment, lower concentrations of active ingredients, and they're long lasting. So I've got a few examples there of places that we use both products, other than just on sports fields. Dog off leash areas, Brisbane Botanic Gardens, council parks, Moreton Bay foreshores, Logan admin centres that we look after. Bit about Barricade and why we use it. So we use Barricade a lot across both our turf department and our landscaping department. And we believe it's by far the leading pre-emergent for use in turfed areas for your broadleafs. And it's exempt from poison scheduling. It's a massive positive for use in populated areas, and as I said before, for use in schools, people using public areas for company image. Those unscheduled products, they really are good all around. And it has a flexible application, so it's still effective for up to 7 days. So it minimises some of our scheduling restraints for our guys managing these projects. Bit about Acelepryn. It's safe for everybody. I believe it's the only insecticide on the market that's exempt from the poison schedule. It's long lasting for up to 6 months. It's safe for our employees that are applying it, and for the public who are using the areas. And it doesn't have a re-entry period to manage, so people can go straight onto it. And it's broad spectrum insect control for all those turf damaging grubs. So we've found that we'll talk to our potential or our existing clients about Acelepryn and its benefits, and when we send them the label and the SDS, 9 times out of 10 will instantly be awarded work just because it's so safe and it is a good product. I've got an example here of some fields that we've been managing for 3 years now at Trinity College in Beenleigh. And we apply a spring application of Barricade at 3 litres a hectare with Acelepryn at 1.5 litres per hectare tank mixed. We've been completing this for 3 seasons now, and they've got no pest and weed issues. And you can see in the photos there that they've got perfect sports fields from one application set and forget that offers that season-long pest and weed control. And when you compare it to those post-control applications using more toxic products and having more disruptions to users, it results in increased sports field durability with less interventions and less environmental impacts. So just in summary, these are what we see to be the key benefits of using Barricade and Acelepryn. They have a flexible application window, allowing them to fit in with all agronomic programs. Acelepryn's a broad spectrum insect control for all of the turf damaging insects, and the non-targeted insects and organisms, they're not harmed, which means it's got a lower environmental impact. They have lower concentrations of active ingredients being used, minimal PPE required for our guys on the ground, so when they're applying it, we're not alarming the community and the users of those turfed areas. No re-entry period to manage post-application. We're applying safer plant protection products less often. And finally, they are efficient, quality products, and they always do deliver results. Thanks a lot for your time. I'll hand back over to Dean to talk about the products more in depth, and we'll answer any questions that you have at the end.
Thanks very much, Isaac. That was a fantastic overview of what Technigro do out there, and we certainly believe at Syngenta that Technigro are a great partner out there to be applying these products and representing our products in the market the way they do it, and efficiencies that they take while they're doing it. So we need to determine the outcomes we require. So when you're looking at agronomic plans for sports fields, one key and important thing that we certainly should be having a look at is reviewing things every year that we do. So that means we're looking at what's worked for the season, what possibly hasn't worked for the season, and we'll fill in those gaps as you go along. So there's always going to be different challenges that we have while we're managing our open spaces, and that's a great opportunity to review your programs. So there's one thing for certain that when you're considering the agronomic plans and programs that we're putting together, one thing that we certainly know as open space managers is that improved presentation is certainly front of mind for the community users out there. So they want to make sure that where they're all sitting there, they're playing sports, kicking their footy, playing cricket, having a picnic on a nice green open space. So that's one thing that we need to consider is improved presentation. And the other thing is when we're doing things, it's less disruption to the end users. So minimal impact. So we don't want to be using high scheduled products that we're going to have to go and treat several times. So with some of the tools that Syngenta have to offer, we can go out there and treat turf surfaces one application with season-long control, and the OH&S risk mitigation and reduction. So using non-scheduled products, certainly front of mind for councils and also the end users and the community. So one thing we certainly know out there, and durability is related to root growth. So if you've got a strong, robust root system, that's going to protect your plant and your turf areas from drought stress. So the plant is going to uptake water. It's going to take the rainfall, nutrition a lot better. So we know as sports turf managers, if we can get that root system right and have a really durable, strong, deep root system, we're going to be able to have a nice, healthy grass up the top. And that's where a product like a Acelepryn comes in. And we can use Acelepryn as a bit of an insurance blanket. So all the good work that you've done through the season to get these nice, durable, strong root systems up and going, we can put out Acelepryn as an insurance blanket, so we can protect your turfed area for up to 6 months with one single safe application, and it doesn't undo all the good work that you've done out there previously to prepare this turf surface for the year ahead. And you'll find that it'll bounce back easier from repairing, from any damage that you incur. So this is just a bit of a look at what a program looks like that we do for some of our customers. So generally Acelepryn's put out, certainly in Queensland, you can look at putting Acelepryn out around September time. Depending on the season, sometimes you may even go a little bit earlier. But the great thing about Acelepryn is its other friend, if you like, or its big brother in the herbicide world called Barricade. So the great thing about these two tools is that you can mix these two products in together at the same time, one application, one safe application, and you'll actually get season-long control, so 6-month control. And you don't have to worry about those pesky, hard-to-kill weeds or insects that are going to be there doing damage and detriment to your turf surfaces. So what we can see here on the left-hand side is it's damage that we traditionally see related to cockchafer insects. So when your turf surface gets to this stage, we're definitely looking at a more curative approach to this. And this is when we're looking at high scheduled products. So we're looking at products of a scheduling of S5s or S6s, herbicides. And you're doing several applications of these products. So you're not just putting out one application, you're looking at least 3 applications to be able to get on top of this damage. So looking at a more preventative aspect of this would be looking at the image on the right hand side here, beautiful green sports field in perfect condition. That's in good condition there, and then they can just go out and put out one single safe application of Acelepryn, and they can set and forget for the whole season. You can imagine if these soccer players here were playing on a field that had grub damage, they're going to be kicking up the turf. I'm sure the physio is not going to be happy because there's probably going to be people there rolling ankles and hurting knees and all sorts of stuff. So doing things proactively is a much more efficient and sustainable way, and versus being reactive. So let's just dive into Accelerant a bit deeper and give you all a little bit of an idea of what this product's all about and how it works. So to give you a bit of background here, when Syngenta find new chemistry, or where we start to develop new chemistry, we don't just stumble across this overnight. So it takes roughly about 10 years and an investment of around $300 million to bring these chemicals to market. So there's a lot of work involved in the background to bring these unique chemistries to be put on your shelf to be able to use and be safe for everybody. And I can tell you now, when I was greenkeeping, if there was a chemical like this around, it would have been fantastic, because I certainly was probably spraying some pretty nasty stuff out there a long time ago. So Accelerant's unique mode of action. So it's in a chemistry group of its own, and the way that Accelerant works, it targets the muscle system of the insects. So all other insecticides out there target the nervous system. So as mammals and as human beings, we're actually quite susceptible to other insecticides that target the nervous system. So with Accelerant targets the muscle system. You can see here on this image here the purple little parts there. So that's what we call the rhinoreceptors. So the Accelerant actually forces the rhinoreceptors to open and stay open. And what it does to the insect is stops the calcium flow, confused there. The calcium from the insect's muscles flows out, and the muscles actually become unregulated, and they paralyze the insect. And after a few days, the insect, sort of 2 to 3 days, the insect will actually die. So that's why it's so safe to us as mammals. We don't have these rhinoreceptors, so that's why it's such a great product to be able to use and put out safely for everybody. And that's why there's no re-entry periods with it. So you can safely put one application out of Accelerant and have the community or anyone out there straight away. This is just a bit of a chart that we got here that talks about some of the other products out there in the market that we use. So, and this is gauged on the LD50. So what you can find, the LD50s is on any SDS sheet out there for any chemical. And the LD50 reflects the toxicity. So the higher the number of the LD50, the safer the product, and the lower the number is the more toxic. So you can see after Accelerant, the next best product on the market is a product called imidacloprid with the active ingredient imidacloprid, which has been a great product in the past. Really, it's probably the second best product out there. But what we can see is that Accelerant's actually 4,500 times safer to use than imidacloprid. So we can see as you move down the line, there's products like bifenthrin and fipronil and clopyrifos, which we're all probably very aware of, and I'm sure we've used, that are very low in LD50. So that represents a seriously toxic to our users, the applicators like Technigro and the council guys, and also not that safe for the community groups also. I actually like to, while we have this slide up, I usually like to tell people that generally those cans under your kitchen sink called Mortine, they usually have fipronil or bifenthrin in it. So when you're chasing your fly around your house, that just gives you a bit of an idea how toxic these products are. Obviously, they're at a bit of a lower active ingredient loading, but that's what we're using. I certainly do anyway. So the great thing, we've had the ability over the last 8 to 12 months to bring Accelerant in a granule formulation. So the best thing about this is that the perception of the community and the public is that as soon as they see a sprayer, they've got a fear of, oh gosh, someone's out there spraying toxic chemicals and things like that. So With a Acelepryn, that's obviously not the case. But the great thing about a Acelepryn granule is that you can go out and put this product into a spreader and safely apply it in hard to get to areas. So if you've got town halls, or if you've got small little lawns within the CBD or something like that, you can quite easily, one safe application, 6 months control, so it's all the same benefits of the liquid. Go out and put out one safe application through your spreader and not have to worry about it. Also, it's great if you do have some open spaced areas where you're going to find that it's hard. You just got community groups that don't like to see sprayers. It's easily to put this in a spreader and go ahead and spray it, spread the product out. So that's available from us now as well. So just to tie off there with the Acelepryn, Acelepryn's a great product for reduced applications. So you're not going in with high scheduled products 3 or 4 times a season to kill these hard to kill insects. Season-long control, non-schedule, which is a huge benefit and huge box ticker, and also reduced social impacts. So you're not going out there. You don't have to worry about taking your spray tank out there several times. You can go out with one application and be done, set and forget for the year. So we'll talk a little bit about Barricade briefly now. So Barricade, our biggest enemy in sports fields really is these hard to kill weeds, things like summer grass and crow's foot grass out there. So again, it's a very similar story to what we're talking about with the Acelepryn. When it gets to these hard to kill weeds, we're using high scheduled chemistry, and it's something that is going to take, again, 2 to 3 applications, so more products to be able to kill these weeds. So that's when we look at a product like Barricade to be able to, when your turf's in great condition, put down your Barricade with your Acelepryn, if you like, one application, and you won't have to worry about some of these weeds for the rest of the season. What we do certainly know as well is that our hard to kill summer weeds actually die out in winter time. So if you've got a turf surface full of the hard to kill weeds, come the winter time, the weeds are going to die out. And what they've done is they've actually taken over your main turf host. So if it's cooch or kikuyu or what have you, it's going to take over those turf hosts and choke them out. So when they die back in the winter time, you're going to be left with a bare field that we got here in front of us here, and that's a field. One of our tech managers actually used to work in Asia, so that's a field there, and you can imagine in the middle of the day there'd be thousands of people there, and that's not a great representation of quality turf whatsoever. And there's people playing there in the mud and not comfortable at all. So taking care of these weeds and managing these weeds efficiently and sustainably, it's going to ensure your turf's in good condition all year round. So a few little notes here on Barricade. So as I've mentioned earlier, this product's one application for 6 months control of all your grassy weeds. Great thing about Barricade is that it doesn't stain. There's certainly products out there, pre-emergence and also knockdown herbicides that stain your paths and stain your machinery. So there's obviously some really great benefits there. Outstanding turf safety. I think Izaac alluded to it earlier. This is the flexibility to be able to use Barricade is fantastic because you can actually wash the product in with irrigation or rainfall within 7 days. So it's not going to harm your turf whatsoever in that area. So if you do have areas that possibly aren't irrigated, you can safely know that if there's some rain coming through that night, you can go out and apply the product and know that it's going to be safe for the turf. So one application, flexible window, low use rates for different situations, minimal PPE and re-entry period. Again, Izaac said it earlier, the re-entry period is when the spray is actually dry on the leaf. So yeah, there's certainly some benefits to using a product like Barricade. And also we've got yeah, a lot of the other products, a lot of other pre-emergent herbicides out there can actually be up to 24 hours to re-enter those areas. So we all know as open space managers that that's actually quite hard to do, is keep people off an area for an hour, let alone 24 hours. So there's some really good benefits to use a product like Barricade. Really exciting thing that happened a couple of years ago is that we actually got a registration for Barricade in garden beds. So one thing, obviously, with the high scrutiny of glyphosate out there at the moment, and over the last certainly 12 months, is that Barricade can be used in these garden beds and roadside areas. So you can go into these hard to get to areas, spray it straight over the top of your plants, because the plant safety is exceptional. Put the product down and walk away, and know that you're going to be free from weeds in these garden beds for up to 6 months. So you're going to save a whole lot of time on labour. There's one thing for certain, that traffic control isn't cheap. There's no doubt about it. So you can see that little image there on the left-hand side. You could imagine closing that street down would have huge impacts on the shops in that area. It's expensive. It's very costly. And I can tell you now, if you're the occupation health and safety manager for that council, you're not going to want someone walking through there with a spray tank every 4 to 6 weeks killing weeds. So with high scheduled products, so something like Barricade, you can close this section for 1 day, half a day if you have to, spray your application of Barricade, and then set and forget for 6 months and walk away and not have to worry about it. So there's some fantastic flexibility with using a product like Barricade. So just to tie this up as a bit of a close off on this part here, 1 season application of a program of a Accelerant and Barricade on your sporting fields or open spaced areas, you can see pretty quickly that you're not going to be going in there with high scheduled products regularly, and it's going to be safe to the operators, the end users, and any community people out there walking around and having picnics out there, and you're not going to have to worry about going out regularly with high schedules. Another great tool that we've got in our arsenal for growth control is Primo Max. So in some of those areas where it is hard to get to and you can't get mowers on as regularly, you can use a product called Primo Max that will reduce the cutting of those turfed areas, and it's going to improve the quality of it also. So if there's any questions about this after, we can certainly answer them as they come through. So that's the end of the official presentation there. If anyone has any questions regarding this or related to anything that myself or Isaac's spoken about now, feel free to jump in. I've just seen a few things going on the chat. I'm not sure if Dan's got to them, but yeah, sing out if we need to.
Thanks, Isaac and Dean. That was awesome. So just to quickly summarise the presentation there, reality for today is spraying is becoming more difficult, and this isn't going away, guys. There's certainly more scrutiny on what you're doing, what you're using, and why. But at the same time, reality is that high expectations are expected on turf and open space management, with less opportunity to do so. This webinar has shared some key information on some key tools to meet and address these challenges, and certainly Syngenta will continue to invest to provide new tools in the future to address future challenges too for open space managers. So it's back to controlling what we can control and doing it safely, and doing it with less interventions, which is then a win for the environment, staff and community. Technigro is a great example of putting these considerations at the forefront of their thinking and ways of working, and utilising these tools to deliver great results for their customers. There's a few questions here in the chat box, and please, so there's about 4 or 5 at the moment, so we'll quickly work through these. If anyone else has got any other questions, please throw them up there. There was a couple there for Izaac to start with. So the data entry systems that Technigro use to log completed jobs, how has this added value to Technigro customers over the years, Izaac?
Yeah, so that's I think that's referring to our reporting portal. Where it's our proprietary portal that we designed. We designed it for Brisbane City Council as part of our herbicide application contract, because us and council were just getting a lot of complaints, especially about spraying herbicide, and one of the main benefits that we've had from that is just the guys that are managing that contract, if they get a complaint, they can just go online, have a look, has that been treated, when was it last treated, what was it treated with, so it brings up a map of all the streets that have been treated, when they were last treated, and who treated them. So then they can, if we find that if you can inform someone and sound like you know what's happening out there, that 9 times out of 10 that they will it'll settle them down a lot quicker and a lot easier. So yeah, that's been the main value add, just from council's perspective and from us, our management perspective too.
Yeah, cool, makes sense. That's awesome tool to have for yourself and the customers. I was interested in your hot water machine there, Izaac. You only just quickly mentioned it, but for local government, how many kilometres can you treat per day with that high-tech machinery? And if you had to put a rough percentage behind it, what sort of percentage do you think that would reduce your glyphosate usage in weed management?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So as far as roadside or road network weed control, the sensor machine is fantastic for hard surfaces, just going alongside the road, doing that crack weed, doing footpaths. It can travel about 6 kilometres an hour effectively treat the weeds. We've also got truck-mounted hot water weed treatment machines. So we find that the sensor's more effective if it can just run straight and not stop, and then we can come along and pick up any areas that that couldn't get to with the smaller mid machines. So how much will it contribute to the reduction of glyphosate? We could essentially treat everything that we treat on roadside weed control with hot water. So 100%. We're finding some councils are just doing some areas, like out the front of schools, out the front of playgrounds, shopping centres, like around water gardens and wizards. But yeah, it could reduce the glyphosate use by 100%, or it could just be bits and pieces here and there, just in those sensitive areas.
Yeah, very cool. Good result for the environment for sure. One for you, Dean. I've been led to believe that Barricade will not suppress the germination of nutgrass and other sedges. Is this an accurate comment?
Yep, that looks like that's come from Chris. Yeah, you're right there, Chris. We do certainly with Barricade, it will suppress some of the sedges out there, but generally, as a rule, we you may also get some breakthrough of these very hard to kill sedge grass weeds. As you know, as a nutgrass, it sits in there in the soil profile there and shoots, and it's very hard to kill. So Barricade, it's not 100% accurate on these sedges. Sometimes you will get a result, and then sometimes the very hard, well germinated weeds is difficult to kill. Not sure if Dan wants to have a build on that at all, if he knows anything extra.
No, probably the only quick build on that is, look, Barricade's certainly effective on anything that germinates by seed, whether that's grass weeds or broadleaf weeds. But from those sedges, they're almost developing from a bulb, I suppose, underneath the soil. So instead of the weed sending a root system down, the bulb sending its shoot up. So it's a different germination mode of action, I suppose, which then makes Barricade a little bit less effective. It will certainly reduce the population, but we would never promise 100% control or even 90% control for nut grasses. But yeah, Barricade will reduce. What we do know is Barricade will reduce your weed population on average by at least 95%, which is then back into reducing your post-control applications and using higher toxicity products to do that. One last question: can you mix Barricade and aceleprant together for you, Dean? And then further add to that is, how does aceleprant and Barricade last for 6 months versus other products that only last 4 to 10 weeks, mate?
Yep. So yeah, we certainly recommend Barricade and aceleprant at the right time of year to mix them together. They're generally, when these two products need to go into the soil, it's around that September period where you're starting to get those programs in place to get a good sports field pre-emergent program for both insects and weeds. One thing I will actually mention in terms of applying these two products is, I like to recommend, especially if you're going to wash your Barricade in straight away, put it in with a wetting agent. So if there are any hydrophobic areas in that soil, it will re-wet those surfaces so your Barricade is uniform and even throughout your profile. The way that Barricade actually lasts up to 6 months versus some other products in the market is that, I can't remember the specific terminology, but prodiamine, the active ingredient, is the way it's formulated. It's actually formulated to bind tightly to the soil molecule, soil particles, and other products out there. Some other pre-emergents out there aren't formulated that way. So if we do get, certainly in southeast Queensland, we'll get 100 mil overnight, and some of the other products will actually flush and leach through that profile. Whereas Barricade's the active ingredients, the molecules actually will bind tightly and lock and hold on that soil particle and won't leach through at all for up to 6 months. And then once that 6 months finished, the molecules start to break down, and you'll need to reapply for extra longevity there after 6 months. So it's the way the product's actually formulated versus other products in the market.
Cool. I think, was there anything else from any other questions, Adam, that I've missed?
Yeah, there was a couple more. Hugh had one: plant nutrition is an important part of plant growth. Do you also recommend a plant nutrition program to integrate with plant protection programs?
Yep. For me, I think obviously plant nutrition and plant health is absolutely paramount. If we're having, I think there was an image there earlier. If you've got poor turf quality, we can, that's when insects and if your plant is weak, that's when your insects and weeds are going to jump in there. So it's important to be able to keep your nutrition up, keep a good nutrition program going. Also keep a nice, strong, robust wetting agent program in Queensland. We've got some pretty harsh summers. The one that we've gone through just then has been certainly one of the toughest I've seen in a long time. So using these together, using the integrated pest management program also with a strong nutrition program will certainly help aid in an all-round good surface for the full season. If Izaac or Dan want to build on that, you can go for it.
Yeah. Oh, do you want to go, Isaac? You go.
No, you go, Dan. That's fine. I was just going to, just sort of reiterate what you said and the slide that you had earlier about the plant health. And yeah, if you've got healthy plants, then they're not going to struggle as much with competition and pests.
Yeah, and probably just to position it all in a relatively clear perspective is aceleprant and Barricade aren't silver bullets. If you don't have your nutrition right, if you don't have your cultural practices right, if you don't have your water management right, aceleprant and Barricade aren't going to solve all those or make up for all those missed going-ons within your program. Aceleprant and Barricade protect all your good programs that are in place and don't let them come unstuck or undone by insects or weeds start to dominate your turf. So you need to have your nutrition programs in place and the right nutrition as well. So some science behind that with soil testing and understanding what you're high in, what you're low in, what your pHs are. You need to have your wetting agent programs in place. You need to have a good irrigation system and program in place as well, backed up with what Technigro does there very well, cultural practices, so soil aeration and thatch, addressing thatch accumulation. Then you come back in with Accelerant and Barricade to protect all that good work and make sure no insects or weeds come in and undo your good work there. So hopefully that sort of puts it in perspective of where Accelerant and Barricade fit within a holistic sort of approach. So yes, plant nutrition is very important for the overall delivery of a durable sport surface.
Oh, great, thank you. And there was one final question for both Dean and Isaac. Chris, thanks you for the presentation. Just as a question, has COVID-19 impacted the business and generated any changes in the safety practices as part of the business operations? Any comment on that in there?
You want to go first, Dean? Or?
You jump in, Isaac.
Yeah, so definitely. Again, I mentioned earlier that we were owned by Citywide, which is a larger company, and that's been really beneficial over this period for us. They had like a COVID response team in place from kind of like the end of February. All the management staff have been working at home since like before cafes were closed. In the field, yeah, we've definitely had to change a few things. Not so much in the turf department, but in our other departments, like we can't work in crews any larger than 2. And they've got all sanitizing equipment and things in the vehicles. Yeah, I think that probably answers it from our perspective.
Yeah, look, for us, I think technology's been a great tool, and a lot of people, it's made people think a little bit differently about the ways of working. Generally, we would be out there having lots of meetings with councils and people like Technigro and things like that, our contractors. So it's certainly changed the way that everyone's thinking out there. And yeah, look, it's going to be an interesting way of working going forward.
No, absolutely. It's very diverse times, and we know a lot of people are either eager to get back in the office or back in the field, or like to stay at home. So it's going to be interesting once this pandemic's over. But from my end, is everyone, no final questions coming through? That we look all good. I'll just, if everyone's happy, I'll just close from a PLA Queensland perspective, and I know the team here is very grateful for the opportunity to present. They're going to provide you with some information post this session, so feel free to reach out as you wish to Syngenta and the team and Technigro. This is an ongoing conversation and relationship, so we're very excited to kick this first one off. And if you have any ideas or content, feel free to contact me directly via plaqueensland@parksleisure.com.au or through our socials or any way that you see fit. And if there's any content that you would like this team to drill down a bit deeper or have a separate topic, please reach out, because everyone's on hand to share their expertise and knowledge. And whilst we're on Zoom and Webinar Jam and everything, it's really a great opportunity to connect to expertise in the field. So from PLA point of view, very grateful and thank you. I'll just let the other team close off and say thank you as well.
Yeah, look, thanks very much to the PLA for having us here today, Syngenta, and also I just want to thank personally from our point of view as well. I thank Isaac from Technigro for being a part of it. They're great supporters of Syngenta, and we're going to work closely with them going forward. So thanks.
Yeah, and yeah, right back at you. Thanks for the opportunity, Syngenta, PLA, and yeah, all you guys that are on watching, thanks for your time. I know that everyone's busy, but we appreciate you coming on and watching. I hope that you really got something out of it.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, and that's everything's been said. So from my perspective, thank you everyone for their time, and hope you take away some key information to implement back at your workplace. And look forward to connecting with you again down the future. Stay safe, everyone, and take care.
Bye.